Hello there, everybody. Welcome back, and we're here to be talking about Captain America: Brave New World. Now, this is the newest film in the ever-expanding Marvel Cinematic Universe, and here it follows our new Captain America, Sam Wilson, who took up the mantle after the events, of Avengers Endgame, and he had his own show with, Bucky in it as well, and so it takes place after that, and it follows him basically trying to stop a potential global conflict between all these different countries where they are all basically trying to, harness resources from what they call Celestial Island, which at the end of the Eternals film, there is that big celestial that just kind of, grew from in the ocean somewhere. And there's a lot of important resources and all there. And so it's basically him trying to stop a plot that's trying to incite a potential war against all these places, and that means he has to talk with a person that he's had kind of a few bad run-ins with, Thunderbolt Ross, who is now played by Harrison Ford, since William Hurt, who played the character, tragically passed away a few years prior. And so with that, there's a lot of secrets and stuff about Thunderbolt Ross and a lot of shady stuff overall that comes to light. And so going into this film, I was really looking forward to, for one, going to see a film in the theater again, because I'm not the best at that, but I try to dive in and do it. And so I was really looking forward to it in that aspect, but also I was kind of curious because how I feel about the MCU at this point is they're usually hit and miss, when before they used to always pretty much be hits and success and, good with the audiences, critics, and money. But now it feels like they rotate between doing well or not. And if by my projection, because how I saw is just like after the initial year of 2021, when you really look into it, from Doctor Strange onward, it feels like they rotate, where Doctor Strange, I think overall was a success with critics, audiences, and money. Then you get the Thor: Love and Thunder, which got a lot of people mad and it barely made a profit. Then Black Panther 2, which not as good as the first one and all, but a lot of people generally enjoyed it and it made decent cash and stuff. Then you get the Ant-Man 3, which outright bombed in terms of everything. Then Guardians 3 was like Marvel's back, this is perfection, everyone loved it. Then you get the Marvels, which is the worst performance in MCU history, I think. And then Deadpool and Wolverine, which was a smash hit, but that was a lot of different circumstances on why that film really worked and made as much money as it did. And now here we are. So by all logic, this film should bomb and not do well. And at least according with the critics, it's not doing so hot. And also, like, with some audiences, it's pretty 50-50 that I've seen when I've talked with, seeing people's responses on social media and just the lack of people that seem enthusiastic about it. And so I have a few reasons on why I think that is, because when it boils down to this film, it's pretty by the books and similar to a lot of the other Marvel films. The action's pretty baseline and nothing too crazy. The performances are fine for the most part. I will say, though, that Harrison Ford in particular, I thought did a great job, because Thunderbolt Ross as a character in this MCU wasn't really that much of like a character per se. Like, he had some stuff in that first Incredible Hulk film, but from then on, he would mainly just show up to be kind of a dick and just something as like that would start a conflict, I'd say, for the heroes to have to overcome. Being with the Sokovia Accords was a main one in Civil War, and I remember he appeared in Infinity War to kind of be like a stick in the mud and not really willing to help with that big threat. And then in Endgame, I believe he showed up at Iron Man's funeral, for that. So he hasn't really had that much of a character, and I think this film does a great job really giving some humanity to him and more depth, even though he's done some bad stuff and he's kind of a bad guy when you think about it. And I think that's really attributed to Harrison Ford's really well done performance. Like, he wasn't really just taking this for the money. Like, he jokes about how he basically is doing this just for cash and all that hoopla about how he doesn't really care. And maybe he doesn't, but he didn't phone it in, at least with his performance, because I thought he was one of the standouts for me. Also, Anthony Mackie and Danny Ramirez, I believe his name is, who's kind of like, the new Captain America's sidekick, so he's the new Falcon, if you will. And I thought their little banter and them doing like a buddy team up to try to figure out this plot was really good, and I really liked them. And there's some other like side characters, like I guess similar to Black Widow type character, like not in the sense that she's a superhero, but in the sense that it was revealed that this person also had similar backstory, like coming from the Red Room and stuff like that. So her character was all right. Like the side characters throughout, they were fine and nothing too crazy. But the main problem I think with the film is that it was, for one, they lied in the marketing about the main, what's going on in the film, because in all the marketing you see, minor spoilers, but I have to let you guys know that the Red Hulk is all over it. It makes you think he's the main bad guy, he's the main threat, and he's in the last 5 minutes of the film. Like the Red Hulk is barely in the film, but the film is different from what the marketing is, because the marketing is spelling out for us about this thing, but in the film it's kind of like a suspenseful, like, what's the secret, like, because it's hinting at, Thunderbolt Ross has, some skeletons in his closet. He worked a bit with the main antagonist of the film, which isn't really that much of a spoiler because he's credited on the poster for fans who recognize that name, and he was at the premiere. But the leader, the Tim Blake Nelson's character from the original Incredible Hulk, shows up and is one of the main, if not the main antagonist, who kind of is pulling the strings behind the scenes. And that was very interesting. Like, I didn't have a problem per se with that. I just wish that the film and the team behind it didn't lie in their advertisement, because I think that's a lot of the reason why the people and critics are not really a fan of it. On top of, this film is really a sequel to products that people didn't like. Like, it's a sequel in a way to Eternals because of that Celestial Island and development of that. And even though I enjoyed the film, a lot of people did not like it. And I mean a lot of people. And then The Incredible Hulk was also one of the earlier forgotten type films that not a lot of people were a fan of. And this is a huge sequel to that in terms of multiple characters coming back from that and getting more development, like the Thunderbolt Ross and the leader, the Tim Blake Nelson character. And so, and also, it's also having to juggle in the Falcon and Winter Soldier show, which I think people did like overall, but it's just been so far out, and there wasn't really enough refreshing the memory for people who don't really either watch the shows or even really remember it that much. So the film was juggling so much in this 2-hour runtime, on top of the fact that I did see the director. They got a director, not to throw too much shade, because he did, fine for what he was hired for and all, but they got a director that doesn't really have his own style and his own, what makes him him. Because just looking at his past filmography, I think he's only made like 2 or 3 films, and all of them were poorly received and not good by audiences and critic standards. One of them being The Cloverfield Paradox, which was an atrocious film by all accounts. And so that's really unfortunate, and I get they just had to release this film, but a lot of the puzzle pieces I think didn't really mesh together well, even though at first glance this should have worked. And maybe it can work, on repeat viewings if people grow to appreciate, because I think it's getting overly hate on for some of the reasons I listed, being it's a sequel to multiple stuff that people don't like. It's kind of like lying in their advertisement about what the main film is about. And it's just a solid, buddy type, like a suspense, like political thriller, if you will, uncovering some of these secrets about past stuff that, some of the characters did, and learning, stuff that you weren't aware of, and just good action sequences as well. Solid performances. There is like a cameo or two that was like pretty like okay, and it was kind of cool to see it tie in a bit more, but it's mainly a sequel to stuff people don't like. So if people like that stuff, if they like Incredible Hulk or Eternals, like I did enjoy Eternals, and I was fine with that, and I just went in, I was like, take me on this ride, take me on this adventure, MCU, let's see what we got. And it was a fine film all around, but not as great as I wanted it to be, but not nearly as bad as people were saying it is. Like, not at all. I've seen way worse in terms of MCU, especially recently. It's not that bad comparatively, but it's just another middling film. But with all that said, those are my thoughts on Captain America Brave New World. Again, what did you all think of this film? Please let me know down below in the comment section if you've had a chance to see it. And did you like it? Did you not? Let me know down below again. And if you want to hit the bell as well and the subscribe button, that would mean so much to me. And I hope to see you all later. Bye!